Hey everyone, in this edition of Teen Tutorials, I'm going to show you how to do a barely there makeup look from start to finish, from foundation to the last bit of mascara I apply. I'm going to show you how to create a less is more look, basically, using some very affordable products, and I hope you guys enjoy this. Let me know if you have any questions, and let's get started. Alright guys, the first step is to moisturize your skin, which I've just done, and then I'm going to take my e.l.f. Shielding Hydro-Tint. It's like a light coverage foundation. I am tone 2, and I'm just going to apply this with my fingers all over my face. So just squirt a little bit out on your finger, and then I like to just kind of dot it around a few places and then just blend it in. And like I said, this is light coverage, so that's sort of along the lines of this barely there look, you know, just not overdoing it with the makeup, kind of letting your natural skin shine through. So I'm just continuing to dot this around and blend it in, blending it right up under my eyes, because while it is light coverage, it does provide some coverage. So you know, it still put it around your eyes, kind of treat it like you would a regular foundation. Right, now that you've applied the Shielding Hydro-Tint all over your face, which also happens to have an SPF of 15, so that's nice in case your moisturizer doesn't have sunscreen in it. Then we're going to reach for our NYX Concealer in a jar. My color is light, and it's just, you know, a nice little pot form of concealer, and I'm using my concealer brush from Essence of Beauty. That's available at CVS, and this is just going to do a really good job of going around our eye area. And if you watched my other teen tutorial, you may have noticed that I did this step before I applied the mineral foundation, and that is because I was using minerals. So I just think, you know, I'll put down the creamy step before the powdery step, and that you know, loose powder foundation function to set this. Right now, we went ahead and did the foundation first, and so I for some reason just like to do the concealer after, generally because that foundation sometimes can cover a little bit for you, and then you can truly see how much work you have left to do with your concealer after you put your foundation on. So there's the logic behind that. Alright guys, now that we have put some concealer around our trouble spots, I'm going to grab my NYX Smooth Skin Loose Face Powder. My shade is Naturally Beige, and I'm just going to use my kind of fluffier kabuki brush for this and just dip it into the powder and sort of treat it like a mineral makeup, kind of, you know, dip into the lid and just apply this powder all over my face, especially setting that concealer on my under eye area. And loose powder is very important because it helps set your entire look. So just keep that in mind whenever you're doing makeup, that loose powder or some form of powder that you're, you know, applying after any liquid step is very important. Okay guys, now it's time to do a little bit of bronzing. I'm going to use my Wet n Wild MegaGlo in Starlight Bronze. It's kind of, it has some shimmer to it, and it has a variety of different tones, as you can see. That could be used as an eyeshadow palette too, really. So I'm going to use my nice big fluffy brush. The fluffier the better is really good for bronzers because it helps diffuse that coverage. You don't want full coverage with a bronzer. You want that to be nice and light. So I'm just going to go over my forehead and just kind of around those areas where the sun might naturally hit. Now we're going to follow that up with some blush. I'm going to be using my Milani Mineral Powder Blush in Mai Tai. And I must say, this is like a peachy pink shade, and I have to tell you guys that in many of my videos, if someone asks me, if I get lots of comments like, what blush are you wearing? Usually the one you're asking about is this one. So just to clear that up, I mean, I sometimes, you know, I'm able to answer that comment, but not everybody goes back and sees it. So anyway, Milani Mineral Blush in Mai Tai. It's a gorgeous shade on so many skin tones, I think, because peach generally looks good on a lot of people, but the added pink here just really works well. And I'm just swirling that on the apples of my cheeks and kind of blending back. we're not going to do it, like I said, this is a barely there look, so we're not going to do any major contour. Alright guys, it's time to move on to our eyes and lips, and on my lips I'm using the e.l.f. Plumping Lip Glaze, and the shade is Oasis. So to do that you use this light side here, that's kind of like the plumping stuff, and then this is the color that you put on top of it. So kind of a pretty, just like goldeny peachy pink shade, really natural. And moving on to our eyes, what we're going to go ahead and do is put a base down. I'm going to use my e.l.f. Duo Shadow Cream in Butter Pecan, and I'm going to use this lighter peach shade, and I'm just going to very lightly, very sparingly apply that all over the lid. And this will just give our shadow something to stick to, and it'll make it a little stand out just a bit more. And then we're going to reach for a CoverGirl quad. I know when I brought this topic up on my blog that I was going to do teen makeup, everybody kind of referenced, or a lot of people did, referenced using CoverGirl makeup to start with, and I definitely did and continue to for some things. But this is the quad in Country Woods. So it's a nice, you know, group of really neutral light shades. Even the darker shades are still pretty light, so I thought for my barely there look this would be a great choice. So I'm going to start with the lightest shade right here, use my eyeshadow brush, and just pack this on my lid. It's just a nice creamy, sort of matte shade actually. And just pat that all over. Just like so. Alright, and then I'm going to use my Essence of Beauty crease brush, not my fine crease brush, but the one that's a size up from that. And I'm going to grab this shade here on the end. I guess these actually have names, and this one would be Mocha. So it's not the darkest shade, but it's probably the second darkest. It's a little bit warmer than the darker shade, and I'm going to just apply this in my crease. It's not gonna, you can see like a little bit of color coming off of it, but it's really pretty light. And the main reason why I'm putting this down is so when I put the darker shade over it, it'll blend even easier there. So now we've got that. Now we're gonna move on to the darkest shade in the group, which is Coffee, right here. And it's just kind of a nice matte brown, a little cooler than that other shade. And we're just gonna deepen the crease just a little bit more. As you can see, we're not getting too dark with anything here. If you have a look you want to call barely there, you can't really go too much further. But just kind of applying that real lightly. It's a really, really natural look. Like if you don't necessarily want anyone to know you have eye makeup on, this would be one of the looks to go with. And then we're going to use this shade right here. It's a shimmery color called, gotta turn it around, Mink Vision right here. It's just a light, it's really the only shimmery shade in this group, and it's just got like kind of a pretty champagne light taupe shade, and we're going to use that as our highlight because that shimmer will catch the light a little bit. And just apply that up there. Now for our liner. The liner is going to be really subtle and it will involve some smudging, so get out your smudge tip, and I'm going to use a brown liner. It's going to be Maybelline Unstoppable in Cinnabar. Any brown liner you're comfortable with will do. And basically I'm going to put a very light amount of this on the outer half of my eyelid. That's a good strategy anytime you kind of want to make your eyes look bigger, but not, you know, have a harsh liner look. Just go on the outer half. It'll kind of, you know, leave this part open and won't be so closed off with a dark line of eyeliner. And then I'm going to go under the bottom here, just lightly connecting at the corner. I'm going underneath, and I'm just barely applying any pressure at all. I'm really barely touching the skin there with that. Okay, and then I'm going to grab my smudge tip, and this is going to de-intensify this a little bit more, you know, just gonna smudge it out, make it so there's not necessarily a line there at all, just a little bit of, you know, darkness. Alright guys, I just curled my lashes and I'm going to apply a coat of L'Oreal's Lash Out mascara just to give me some nice length here. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this barely there makeup look. I hope you find it easy to duplicate. It really is not that difficult, and chances are many of you have some neutral shades like this in your collection somewhere that you can use. But I think it just goes to show that you don't need to wear a lot of makeup, but just a little bit, just to kind of, you know, even out the skin tone and enhance your eyes a little bit can go really a long way. So thanks guys so much for watching, and have a great day.